All right, gentlemen, picking with a third pick in a draft, we have TDogs, who, in his first year in the league, went all the way to the title game. He did get knocked off, but still, that's a pretty dang good climb for year one for the T-Dogs. Looking at his roster, we'll start off with the QB spot and work our way down, just as we usually do. At quarterback, he's got Matt Schaub, Mark Sanchez, and then a bunch of backups. I guess Sanchez is a backup, too, at this point, with Geno Smith in town. So he's in a bit of trouble at QB. Schwab is not a top-tier starter. I'm not a big fan of him. I live in Houston. I'm a huge Texans guy, and we're about tired of Schwab. I'll go ahead and tell you that here. There are cries for TJ Yates to get in there and get in the game. Us Texans fans here in Houston, which is where I'm from, we're really sick of him. I'm not sure he lasts the year if he struggles, because there are so many people calling for his job already. Working the way down, you have Sanchez, Foles, Kirk Cousins, and Brock Osweiler, all backup guys. The hope is that one of them ends up finding their way to a starting job by the end of the year, but it doesn't look, good for any of them because they all have pretty good guys in front of them. Especially you look at Foles, they drafted Barkley. You look at Sanchez, they drafted Smith. You look at Washington, well, Cousins, he's got RG3 in front of him, and Osweiler has, the ageless, timeless Peyton Manning in front of him. So at quarterback, T-Dogs is not looking too stout. That being said, he's not too far removed from a good 4,000 yard, I want to say it was like 28, 30 touchdown passing season that he had in 2010 or 2011. So it's possible now, especially adding DeAndre Hopkins, that they could improve and Schaub's numbers could go up a little bit. Looking down at the running back position, he has Shady McCoy and Bryce Brown. He has the handcuff there, which is great. I don't see Brown as much more than a handcuff, at least in 2013. And he is really hurting behind Shady, though. He has McCoy, and then he has his handcuff. Then he's got Quiz Rogers, Joik Bell, and Marcel Reese. And all three of those guys are just flex plays on a bye week at best. Quiz Rogers had a decent year last year with all the receptions, but they brought in Steven Jackson, and he doesn't, I don't figure to see Quiz's numbers go up at all. And Joik Bell's numbers, on the other hand, should go down, and Marcel Reese, they drafted a back. They brought in, I can't even remember who it was, but they brought somebody in during free agency. And then McFadden's supposed to be back, so I don't see much production from Reese. So at running back, like his quarterbacks, T-Dogs is not in great shape. He's got a good stud number one. We'll look on both QB and running back are probably about a B right now. Moving on down to his wide receivers, he's got Eric Decker, who is more of a wide receiver 3, especially with Wes Welker coming to town, and same with T.Y. Hilton. Although I think Decker has more upside than Hilton, I believe that we've seen the best of Hilton. I'm not a big believer in his ability. I think he can be a good player in the NFL and a nice weapon, but I don't believe that he's a stud in by anyone's standards. I don't think he's a Deshaun Jackson. I think he's more of a Antoine Randall kind of guy who's just, his ceiling is 55 to 60 catches for 800 yards. And I think we've about seen the best of him. He'll have some big hits, and then he'll have some missed games. Ryan Broyles is his wide receiver 3, and that's not a great situation because he's coming off an ACL, and he's looking at having to start him soon. If Broyles isn't back in time, which seems likely at this point, he's going to have his choice of Andrew Hawkins, Dwayne Harris, or Devon Bess, or the one in Baltimore, Jacoby Jones. None of them are good starting options. So a wide receiver, there's a lot to be desired for T-Dogs as well. I'd probably give him a C+, a wide receiver, something like that. At tight end, he's got Mercedes Lewis and Delaney Walker. And again, neither of them are overwhelming. T-Dogs is not in great shape at tight end either. So looking up and down his roster, I'm proud of him for getting all the way to the title game. I don't know if he's made some trades since then, but I don't see this as a playoff team. Sorry, T-Dogs. No offense. But that being said, he's got the 1-3 pick, and he could be looking at a lot of different options here. I'm not sure who's going to be on the board, who goes 1 and 2 in this league, but I love Tavon Austin there. I'd love DeAndre Hopkins there. If by chance if he can get, even Le'Veon Bell, I think would be a good fit. I was not a big believer in Le'Veon Bell's talent before the draft, but sometimes the situation is just too good. Even if Le'Veon Bell is just an average talent, The fact that he's in Pittsburgh and they've already said he's a 3-down back for them, that can't be denied. It can't be ignored. A 3-down back for the Pittsburgh Steelers. You look at what Rashard Mendenhall was able to do there a few years ago. If you sprinkle in 40 catches to Mendenhall's, 1,200 yards and 10 touchdowns, if you sprinkle in 40 catches in there, you got yourself a top 5 back. And I think that Bell has that. He's every bit as talented as Mendenhall was. I'm not trying to say that he's a stud, but in that system, he sure could be. I would strongly consider Le'Veon Bell there. If I don't go Bell, I'm going Tavon or Hopkins. Those are the 3 that I'm considering. T-Dogs needs immediate production unless he wants to go into a full rebuild, and then I still wouldn't change my pick because they're both very young. Le'Veon Bell doesn't turn 21 until August. Tavon Austin's 23, but still, wide receivers play longer. So those are the people I would be considering at 1-3. At 2-9, I'd probably be looking at best QB available because quarterbacks tend to slide in fantasy, not in reality, but they tend to slide in fantasy, so I don't think Geno Smith lasts that long, but I would consider him there. I would even, just for a second probably, consider E.J. Manuel because Buffalo's going to try and give him the job. I'm not a big believer in Manuel either, but, I wasn't a big believer in Russell Wilson, and I wasn't a big believer in Colin Kaepernick, and, let's just say I was wrong. These spread option guys that can run that read option, not spread option, that can run the read option, that can get those plus yards rushing, they can be fantasy studs, and maybe it's time we just accept that, and I think E.J. Manuel could be a steal at 2-9. And he also has the 2-10 and the 2-11, so I would be looking at best player available with those. Maybe another backup wide receiver and running back if he can grab. I'd really love to see Stephon Taylor. I think he's got a good chance of going higher than this because he's in a great situation there in Arizona, and he's an all-around back. I know he ran a slow 40. He's a very good player, and I think he'll be fine. I'm not saying I see tons of upside for him, but something like, I don't know. It's hard to find a player comparison for him to place on him, but he could be. I'm trying to think of one right now. And a few are coming to mind. Sean Alexander, maybe. Tiki Barber was never that fast, but Tiki Barber just played hard, caught the ball, and eventually learned not to fumble, and he turned out to be a fantasy stud. So those are the picks I'd be going with. If I were T-Dogs, I hate to say it, but I probably, even if you hit on those picks, I don't think I'd be expecting playoffs. But still, he's got a dang solid, base there with Shady McCoy, Decker, and whoever he grabs at this 1-3. So good luck, T-Dogs, with your picks, and have a good draft.